It sounds like a very clever talking point. Israel is an apartheid state. You hear it more and more from the left. Israel is an apartheid state. And now you've got Ali Velshi at MSNBC saying there's no existential threat to Israel. Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your eyes with 3,500 rockets from Hamas flying into Israel stopped only because of the Iron Dome. No, there's no existential threat. There's no external threat. There's no internal threat. There's no threat. This is an actual sentence written by an MSNBC commentator. There is currently no existential threat to the state of Israel. Really? You've got the majority of Palestinians support the end of the Israeli nation. You've got Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran want the end of Israel. They declare a Palestinian state from river to sea, meaning the end of Israel. Israel left the Gaza Strip, completely left it, handed it over to the Palestinians, and they promptly put Hamas in charge of it. It's not by fear. There's no uprising against Hamas. They're willingly part of Hamas. Hamas is a designated terrorist organization that wants the elimination of Israel and uses the Gaza Strip from which to launch attacks on a daily basis. The rocket attacks you're seeing now are not new. They happen every single damn day. It's the volume of the attacks that's different. And why? Because the Palestinians were going to have elections, and Fatah, the party of Yasser Arafat, is in charge now with a guy named Mahmoud Abbas, and he realized he was about to lose to Hamas, the terrorist organization in the West Bank, so he canceled the elections. So Hamas is now lashing out. And so now the left is peddling the talking point that Israel is an apartheid state. No, you know what? If you're an Israeli citizen, whether you're an Arab or a Jew, you get to vote and participate in the election. If you're a Palestinian and you're not an Israeli citizen, you can live in the Palestinian territory. You can go into Israel and get a job. But you've got designated territory to live in, and they want it to be a nation. Except the problem is those in charge don't just want that land territory as a nation. They want an end to Israel itself. The Palestinians have no state to protect their right to exist. You know what? Guess what? Israel was not firing missiles into Palestinian territory until Hamas, that the Gaza Strip citizens put in charge, decided to try to eliminate Israel. The Palestinians have a perfect right to exist. They've chosen to use that right to try to destroy Israel. It's not an apartheid state. If you believe it's an apartheid state, it is a laughable statement. Listen to this. This is one look at a current map of Israel, Gaza, and the occupied territories conjures up only one other example: apartheid-era South Africa. Palestinians cannot freely travel to see relatives or do business in other Palestinian cities without passing through highly intrusive Israeli checkpoints. Why? Let's not dance around that, because Hamas convinced a bunch of them to strap bombs on themselves and blow themselves up on buses. This is revisionist nonsense by an MSNBC correspondent who pretends that Palestinians are some sort of peace-loving citizen. Tell the Israelis who got blown up on buses and in restaurants by Palestinians with bombs strapped to them. And by the way, why do they have to go from the Gaza Strip to the West Bank through a border checkpoint? Because Israel's a sovereign nation, and they've handed control over to Gaza to the Palestinians as if it's a sovereign nation. And what have they chosen to do? Instead of building up their people, they build up armaments to try to destroy Israel. It's a separate territory. That's what they wanted. And now suddenly they're moving the goalposts and trying to claim it's apartheid state. They wanted control of Gaza. The Israelis gave them control of Gaza. They've used it to wage war against Israel. So Israel has had to set up a restricted border that they have to be checked when they pass through so they don't kill Israeli citizens. And Ali Velshi at MSNBC now calls this an apartheid state because we gave them control of Gaza. The Israelis gave them control of Gaza, and now they use it to try to kill Jews. This is propagandistic nonsense that the left believes. I guess if you really wanted to be apartheid, let's give them it. Tear down the border and take back over control of the Gaza Strip, Israel. Oh, well, we can't do that. So wait, you're leaving them in control? Well, then how is that apartheid? Because you're not giving them the rest of Israel? They want to be a separate people. They want to be their own nation, but they can't. Israel can't have a border with them to protect themselves from people who want to kill them. This is where the left in this country is. They're broken.